Welcome to step 2 in this 3-part series where we're going to build a study plan together today that you can stick to. If you haven't done step 1, which is about goals and how you can set goals that motivate you, then go back and do that. That's really important that we start there and then move on once we've set the goal to building the plan to get us there. So we're going to build together a repeatable winning week, and we're going to do that in 7 steps using the free worksheet that's either linked below this video or in the email that this video came with. And we're going to build that. But before we do, I would love to invite you to think about how much studying should you do. So we're going to look at this in 2 ways. Firstly, ideally, I would say we want to do an hour per week per GCSE. And if you've got 10 GCSEs, that's roughly 10 hours a week. This is not just revision. This is also homework, tutoring sessions, extra study clinics that you're going to after school, anything outside of your core school day. But for a lot of teens I work with, this feels too much. And it's something that definitely they can build up towards, but to start with that is probably a little bit scary. So the other way of looking at this is how much studying could I do? And I love to think about this in terms of levels. So level 1, if you're just getting going, 25 minutes a day. Across 6 days of a week, so I always encourage everyone to have 1 day off. That would get you to 2.5 hours across your week. And I break down these levels into 25-minute blocks because I find a lot of my teens have real success with the Pomodoro technique, which is where you do short, really focused sessions in 25-minute blocks. But of course, you don't need to do that. You can use this as a guide and, decide on what works for you. Level 2 is where we want to get better. That is where we would do 50 minutes or 2 25-minute sessions each day, and that would get us to 5 hours across the week. Level 3 is where we want to really get good. So this is getting us to the 10 hours. And broadly, if we do this in what we call the 100, is what I call this in my program. So 100 minutes a day. And when we build in a moment a study plan together, you'll see in my example, we can't always do 100 minutes because there's different things going on. So what's actually most important is that we stick to the weekly, hourly total. But the 100 can be helpful when you're on weekends or half terms. It's a nice number and a lot of students can feel they can work towards that. Level 4, I've got some teens in my program who are working towards straight 9s, or they want to put in a little bit more work. And for them, getting towards closer to the 15 hours a week is appropriate. The benefits of short sessions, a quick note on this because it can be helpful for planning. The girl on the left is at the gym. The lady on the right is also at the gym. Which one is going to build more fitness? Quite clearly, the lady on the right. So we want to be having our study sessions just like this, where we are focused, we are on it, and we're productive. And short sessions can help with that. They also allow us to cover multiple subjects because we're just doing a short amount on one and then we move on. And also really encourage you to think no phones. When you're doing these short sessions, they are timed and we don't want to use our phone. And talking of that, tracking your time. I really love these little kitchen timers from Amazon that you can use. I use this myself personally too. Lots of my teens have this. Much better than using your phone to time because obviously we don't want our phones in the room. And it really, I love this quote from Peter Drucker, what gets measured gets managed. So if we start to become aware and track our study time, then we can really start to work on improving it. So we'll now get into it and building our repeatable winning week. Grab your free worksheet, which is either linked below this video, or if I sent you the video on email, you should have a link to it there. So we're going to have a go at filling this out together and building an example that's going to look a little bit like this in the end. Okay, so step 1 is school time. I'd love you to highlight roughly when does school start and when does school finish. Highlight the cells, pick a colour and fill it in. And what you'll notice here is that this school actually starts at 8:45 and it ends at 3:45. But we're not aiming to build a plan that is absolutely minute by minute perfect. This is a broad plan to help us structure our week that we can stick to. So you can put in the detail if you'd like, but broadly it starts at 9 and finishes at 4. And that is absolutely enough detail for our planning process. So pause the video now and complete when your school starts and finishes. Now we want to think about travel time. How long does it take me to travel to school? So again, I can put in some detail here if I would like about the exact time that I'm traveling, or I can just pop in travel to school. So traveling to school and traveling home is your next step. Pause the video while you complete that. Next is getting ready and bedtime. So in this example, we've popped in that we are going to get up by 6:30 in order to get ready and arrive at school. And so that we have at least 8 hours sleep, that means we want to be in bed by 10:30. So we can just pop that into this little space here, and we've got that linked as well. Now this is something that, over working with hundreds of students over the last 6 years, I see probably about 80% of teens, I would say, do not get enough sleep during the week. And this really affects mood, motivation, anxiety levels. So this can be a really helpful way to improve grades without any more studying, is just by being well rested. And if you're anything like me, you're probably also a nicer person when you're well rested too. So once you finish that, we're going to move on to hobbies. This is all of the hobbies, tutoring, anything that you've got fixed across your week that means there's no way you could study in that time because you've got something else that you have to be at. So in this example, I have put rugby for this teen, and I've selected a little orange colour, and then I've just popped in that that is their rugby session. You can just write that in there. What we've also put in is we've got another rugby on a Wednesday and a rugby game on a Saturday most of the time. Now in this example, the teens rugby games sometimes a Saturday, sometimes a Sunday, but we've planned for where it is most of the time, and of course we can flex it. We've also popped in here that they've got a maths tutor on a Wednesday. So have a go at this and pop in all of the fixed things across your week that you need to be at that means you can't study. The next thing we're going to think about is study time. So this is the most sort of detailed bit, the bit that will take you a little bit of time. And I want to work through this example and also highlight a few things. So firstly, we've put in this example that this teen is going to study for 10 minutes on the bus each day. So they've got a 45-minute bus journey. And for some teens, this can work really well. At just 10 minutes of that time, we could do flashcards on Quizlet for languages or certain key sciences. We could use Cognito for sciences. We could use our maths platform like Sparks or Dr. Frost. But whatever we do, we can get a small amount of study in on the bus, and that may not sound like a lot, but over the week, that's nearly an hour. This doesn't work for all teens. If it doesn't work for yours, that's absolutely fine. But where it does work, it works really well. On a Monday, we're going to come home, we're going to travel home, and then we're going to have some chill time. And then we're going to study for 2 25-minute blocks. We've got an hour for dinner, and then we're going to do 2 more 25-minute blocks. On a Tuesday, we're going to travel home, and then we're going to get straight into our studying because we want to get nearly an hour done, and we've got rugby. So then we study, we have a break, we study again, and we have a quick tea, and then we're out for rugby training on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, we come home, and the first thing we do is actually have something to eat, because after that, we're straight into maths tutor and then rugby training. And then on a Thursday, we've got travel home, get on it with some studying straight away, have a nice dinner, and then we're going to go to the gym. And then Friday and Sunday, you can see what we've done there. So pause this video now, have a look at how you can fit and map your time across the week. This might be something where you become aware of the fact that actually there's just too many fixed slots across the week. Sometimes that comes up, that actually teens have just got too much on and they've got some choices to make in order to be able to get sufficient study in across their week. So have a go with this, and then we'll move on to the next part, which is to think about chill time and your day off. So this is the fun part where we can think about, right, on a Monday, I'm finished at 8. On a Thursday, I'm finished at 8. On Tuesday and Wednesday, actually, I'm done by 6. And then we can take, in this example, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights are all off studying. And if you'll see here as well, we've got a whole day off on a Saturday, so we don't need to do any study there. Surprisingly, this is a very popular part of my recommendations for the teens that I'm working with. And I always recommend that we have a day off because we've got to be able to stick to this plan until nearly the end of June. This is definitely a marathon and not a sprint. And it is so helpful that we've got a day where we've really got some cognitive rest planned in there. Also, the day off gives us a bit of flexibility in our time, in our plan. Because on a Sunday, yeah, I've got tons of studying planned in there, but let's imagine I go to my friend's birthday and he invites me to go go-karting for the day. Actually, that means I need somewhere else to be able to fit that study. So it's really helpful to have a day off, which means that we can always hit our study hours at the end of the week, even if we need a little bit of flexibility. So pop in now all the chill time and choose, ideally, if you can, a day off at the weekend. If you can't make that due to sporting commitments or other things, that's okay. Not all teens can have a full day off, but ideally that's something that's great to aim for. And lastly, we want to then add up our study hours and enter them into our study plan. So how many hours are we aiming for? And this is a really important thing to think about because, as we've just talked about, sometimes we'll get invited to a party. Sometimes it'll be our birthday. Sometimes it'll be a family gathering. There will be all sorts of things that will come up week to week, sixth form open evenings, and things that mean that our studying is just not going to go to plan. That's absolutely fine, and we should go into this knowing that that will be the case. And if we track our time and then we hit our weekly goal, it's absolutely fine. We can shimmy things around. We can do a bit more on a Friday night. We could do a little bit on a Saturday. We can mix things up if we need to in order to get the studying done. And that's why it's good to build a plan with a reasonable amount of hours where you also know that there's a bit of flex in it as well. And the last thing I'd say on this, consistency is key. We want a study plan that feels like a kind of a 7 out of 10 or hard, something around that. We definitely don't want a plan that feels a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 hard in terms of our ability to stick to it. Because success, as it shows here, is actually 95% consistency, 5% brains. So we want to build a plan that feels quite light, that feels, yeah, totally doable. And we can always put some more hours in leading up to mocks or build on this plan. If we stick to it consistently, we can always add more. But my big recommendation is start light. It's one of the most common mistakes I see amongst teens is that they build a plan, they put far too much in it, they can't stick to it, and within a week or two, the plan's in the bin. So let's not make that mistake. Start light, start easy, build a habit, and we can take it from there. So next step, if you would like to get some feedback or ask some questions about what I've talked about today, I would love you to join my free parent community on Skool. This is a group just for parents of students in year 10 or 11. We're focused in that group, and I'm focused on helping you build executive function skills in your teens so they can improve 1 to 3 grades across the board. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in and you'd love to have a chat and learn more about, I'd love you to click the link below this video, join my free group, and I'll see you there. Thanks.